Well, we're going to go ahead and bring this baby to a close, this entire series. Now, I've got the meter is working, but I need to do a little bit more finessing of it. This bulb here is just a 6 volt. It takes a 2.5 volt bulb, but I didn't have any, a number 41. I've since ordered some. I've also ordered some 47s from Radio Days. They'll be here shortly. I just wanted to make sure that the power was to it, and it is working, but it's just not bright enough to really light up the dial or light up the meter. Speaking of dials, I found out that Radio Days also makes a reproduction dial for this thing. Can you believe that? 1931 6214, a reproduction dial for this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up. It's 20 bucks plus shipping, I think. I just couldn't believe it. I went to the website and there it was. I said, you got to be kidding me. This can't be happening. And there it was. I said, holy moly. So I'll be going ahead and ordering one of those. But just to show you that the needle does work, I'm going to have to get with Brendan on this and find out exactly what's going on. I'll go ahead and disconnect the ground wire from the antenna. And you'll hear a lot more static going on in the background. But right now we've got a pretty good clear station. The problem is when I tune through the stations, and I'm not getting any needle movement at all. However, when I take this off, watch what happens. The needle works okay now. To the left shows the signal strength. Anyway, that's a very delicate thing. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. In the end, I may have to wind up taking it apart, trying to figure out what's going on. And I'll get with Brendan on that for now, though. But everything is good to go. All I got to do, like I said, is put on the dial scale. The radio is working. The chassis is done. The cabinet is next. We've been at this chassis business now since, what, January? Oh, God, almost 8 months. Holy mackerel. But anyway, some of you had asked what was the problem with the radio, why it wouldn't work for quite a while. I told you I was missing a wire, and some of you said, well, what wire was it? Well, I don't see the difference, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and show you. And we will close the video out on that section, showing you which wire was missing and why, and also what we have done to get good volume now, whereas before we couldn't get any at all. We have made a modification to this. Brendan's idea, he came up with it. Later on, he did some research, and he found out that the setup right here really sucks. And apparently, the people who made this radio realized it also. I cover a little bit of that in the wrap-up segment. Anyway, I'll go ahead and do a little. I've got to do a little more shining on this and shining on that, and a couple of wires on the bottom I may want to go ahead and change. But for what we wanted to accomplish on this series, it is done. It is done. It is operational, and I'm happy. And the next time you see this thing, it'll hopefully be mounted in the cabinet. I can't do any cabinet work outside right now. It's just too hot. So you're all going to have to wait a while on that. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and stick this on a shelf somewhere and get back to something else. I appreciate everybody hanging with me on this from beginning to end. It has been one big slog. I thought it would never end, to tell you the truth. We had so many problems. 1931, 85-year-old radio, now functioning. I'm kind of happy about that. We'll go ahead and hook this back up and it'll quiet it down. It changes the capacitance of the radio is what it does, the tuning circuit. And of course, when I do that, there's no movement on the meter at all. Okay? Well, that's it, guys. We'll go ahead and close this series. And as I always say, this is the way I do it. The rest of you are still expected to do better. Be safe when working on these radios. Don't be a fool when you think you know everything. That's when you start making mistakes. That's when you start getting shocked. That's where you can be killed. These things are not toys. Okay? Know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, stop and ask somebody for some help. And that's it. Series is ended. Well, a couple of you wanted to know what wire was missing, you know. It was this one right here, off the primary of T2, from here over to one side of the tuning meter. You know, I must have removed that wire because I didn't like the looks of it, and I was getting ready to change it out when I probably got distracted and forgot all about putting it back in. That's the only thing I can think of, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's back in there. It works fine now. Now, this mess right here was giving us a lot of problems. This automatic volume control, cathode being controlled, cathode bias being controlled by the volume control in conjunction with the tube, which went up and came across and controlled, you know, the control grid here, and let me see, up through here. It's just a mess, you know. Anyway, we couldn't seem to quite get it right no matter what we did. So Brendan, you know, my mentor, he did a little research on this, and he found out that later on the airline folks abandoned this whole thing right here. And what they did was they just came out of here, got rid of the volume control here, and just ran the, you know, they just went with the this 40 k-ohm resistor straight into the cathode. So what we did is we did that same thing ourselves. I went ahead and just eliminated the volume control altogether down here, came across, put in the 40k resistor right on in. That's what we have set up right now. The second thing that required changing as a result of that was the volume control is now up connected to the control grid of the output tube. The wiper goes into the control grid here. This, of course, comes down, and what we did was eliminate this 500 meg resistor right here, okay, and put the volume control in its place. So that's the only thing that's changed. We didn't really do anything except remove the 500K, put the 500K potentiometer in there, audio taper pot, with the wiper going to the control grid. So that's what we have now, and it works fine. And that's the way it's going to stay. I tell you what, I'm really glad, because this mess down here was, it just didn't work. We tried everything, it just would not work. Period. Absolutely no volume control whatsoever.